is what kind of roofs can you make with the tool? And there's quite a few of them. There's a bunch of them that you probably couldn't achieve with the tool, but these are the ones that you can. The first one is called that open gable, and it's got a pitched roof. This is the most common roof that you're gonna find within it. It's just that typical triangle roof with those pitched slopes. And the reason why they're sloped like that is so that it's to cause rain and snow to fall off of the roof and not collapse the building. So open gable is the most simple, and it's the easiest to make. All you have to do is one of two things. You can use roof segments in the stamp catalog and then just piece them together. And the trick is when you're making a roof like this, you only need to make one half of the roof. So here's one half of the roof, copy and paste, simply flip it, and then combine them. And now you have a simple open gable pitched roof. It's as simple as that. You can also use the line tool to make pitched roof as well. I do believe that there are ones that just have both the slopes automatically. So like right here, you'll see this red castle roof already has a built-in slopes to it. So you don't have to worry about doing that, but some don't have that. So if you wanted to make another type of roof like this, you could do that as well. And then you just copy, paste, flip it with the flip option, and then just place it, overlap the ridges. And now you have your simple open gable. So making open gable roofs are the most simple. They're going to be the most common used. And they're probably the ones that that you're going to be making the most of. So getting down open gable is going to be important. The next one is called a shed. And it's just one slope. You can see the design here. It's just one slope. These kind of roofs are great for outbuildings. So if you have like a shed, maybe you have like an outhouse, maybe you have a servant's quarters, a wood shed, a storage building, any of these auxiliary buildings that you generally find outside of maybe you have a house and then you have these auxiliary buildings. The shed roofs are the best for that because they're very simple. They're not very expensive buildings. They use cheap materials. A shed is the simplest roof to make. It's just one slope. So it's super easy to make. The next one is a flat roof. This one is most common in very hot regions. So like if you're in a desert and there's not much rainfall, you don't need a sloped roof, right? You don't need to have a slope because there's just not enough rain. There's not enough rainfall. And so a flat roof is going to be the most simplest roof that you could use for those regions. So like a desert is a great place to have these flat roofs. And of course, a flat roof is great for combat because it's flat and it's easy to access. There's usually a staircase that goes up to it. So let's go in and create a little staircase here. We just did stairs, right? So let's add in a stair. And the stair that I like the most for this is using this one because it already has a built-in threshold over the top there. And what I'll do is I'll just place it down. And then all I do is just change the blend mode to luminosity. And then I have a kind of a stair that already fits. So I can bring the brightness up a little bit. And now I have a stair. And remember, the best place to put stairs are against the wall. So if I put it right here, this is going to make the most sense because if I put it all the way up against here, when they go down, they're just going to walk up against the wall. So place a little bit of room between you and the corner. And now when the players go to walk somewhere, they can go down the steps right here and then go down into the building. Okay, so flat roofs are great for desert-like areas, and make sure that you have some kind of roof access, whether it's a ladder going up to it, or if there's usually a staircase that kind of goes up to that roof space. There's a lot of fun things that you can do up on a roof space, combat, all that stuff. So important to remember that. The next one is it's the same thing as an open gable or a gable, but it has something called dormers. Okay, and a dormer, again, is a window that pops out of the slope. Now, when you first put down a dormer on a roof, you're going to notice that you can't see it very well. It's kind of flat. So the trick is to add a shadow to the dormer so that it looks like that it's popping out. So the way that you do that is you go to Object Shadow, Custom Object Shadow, and you're going to notice that I went ahead and created a nice hard shadow, brought the intensity up, brought the blur up a little bit, and then I moved the shadow away from the point on the right side, and I moved the shadow to the face of the dormer where the window will be, and then that ambient occlusion makes it look like that dormer juts out. So super easy way to add dormers. And remember, if you want to make a gable, an open gable like this, it's really easy. Just make one side a shed, make a shed style thing, and then just flip it and then connect them via the ridge. So not hard to make. So there are some built-in roofs, and the built-in ones are basically a hip roof. It's called a hip roof because the roof tapers upward into the center. You see here that it tapers upward into the center, into this ridge right here. That's called a hip roof. These are the ones that are built in. You can put these together to make multiple buildings, but these are called a hip roof, and you're going to be using them a lot because they are the most simplest ones. They're built already for you, so you'll have a lot of hip roofs. There's another type of hip roof called a pyramid hip, and that's because it tapers into a pyramid right at the center there. So that's called a pyramid hip. Super easy to use and put together. You don't ever actually have to make these. They're just available for you right there in the catalog. Super easy to make. The next one is called a gambrel. And a gambrel is one that you might recognize because it's that design that most barns have, right? There's a tapered slope and then another slope that's tapered at a different angle up at the top. This is called gambrel, and it's really easy to make. Remember the trick. You make one side first, then you can just simply group it, copy and paste, flip, and then connect them, and then add a ridge cap or a ridge at the top. So making these gambrel ones are easier than you think. You just remember, you just have to make one side, copy, paste, flip, rotate. Super easy to make a gambrel roof. That last one is called a mansard. And a mansard is a specific type of roof that has a flat surface at the top, but it still has that slope. Am I going to walk us through lining up the shingles? I swear, no matter what I do. Yes, I'll show you how to do that. You could probably use snap to grid because we're going to do some use cases at the end here. After I explain this and then do the last two questions, we'll actually put roofs. We'll put all these roofs together so that way you're not like, well, you showed me the roofs, but you haven't put them together. Don't worry. We'll get to that. I promise. So a mansard roof is generally a more expensive roof because it requires more materials. And it's generally on a building that you would see like a parliamentary building, an expensive, could be a university building. Yes, the stairs are at the beginning. Don't worry, Gengier. You can find it without a problem. Just go back in the beginning of the video a little bit. And we are searching for all of these. All of this will be available on YouTube. I'll split them up into 2 separate videos so you can watch them separately, and they're easy to follow along. So if you miss stairs, don't worry. You can rewatch it here or on YouTube. So this last one is called a mansard. It does have a tapered feeling that goes up. You can see here it's tapered up like this, but it also has a flat part at the top. This is called a mansard roof, and you can see a lot of these. Like if you live in a university town, you can walk around universities and you'll see a lot of mansard roofs. They're perfect for more fancier, more ostentatious buildings. So if you wanted to show that you have a fancy building, the fancy roof is the mansard. And there's a lot of different ways to make a mansard, right? A mansard isn't just a pyramid hip roof with a square on top of it. It could also be it could be a regular hip roof like this, a longer one that has a longer pieces that has this flat part at the top. So it doesn't have to just be on a pyramid. There can be various shapes that can happen with a mansard. And the way that I made the flat part for the mansard is I just used a landing from a staircase. That's it. I could put a landing down and then there you have it, right? Same thing if I wanted to add in a mansard roof to another piece, I could do that by just choosing a landing and then reshaping it to fit at the top of this hip roof. So these are the various types that you can make. Again, the ones you're going to be making the most of, because most of the fantasy is like European kind of stuff, you're probably going to be using these the most right here. Open gable and shed. They're the most common on top of this dormer one. Again, if you're in the desert, you're probably going to be using these flat ones. And then these are the most commonly used in a sense that they're already built for you, so you don't have to add much to them. So you'll be using a lot of these a lot. These ones are probably going to be less You're not going to be using them as much. You might have a farm, and then maybe you want to create a gambrel roof for that barn, or you have a fancy palace and you want to use the mansard roof. So you won't be using those quite as much as those other ones. And of course, okay, I don't know if there are ones for Watercolor City. That's a good question. You'd have to check that out. I know that there's a built-in one for the platforms, but I don't know about the others. So we'll have to take a look at that.